How far, my people? This is Emma Popo once again, and today I am not going to be singing for you all. As you can see, I'm going to be doing something a little different, and by different I mean I am going to be reading a story I wrote back while I was in secondary school. So just as a little backstory, I am a writer. I have always loved writing. Since I was a kid, back in secondary school, I used to write so many stories with my old notebooks. Instead of copying my notes and doing my assignment, I used to write those stories. And this is an example of one of the stories I wrote, and it is titled Tim the Traveler. I illustrated the cover page by myself so beautifully, and the story has, I don't know if you saw it, and the story has illustrations inside which I do also. It's very horrible. This is a warning, so please bear with me. I'm going to try to run through it, then give my opinions as I go through. Chapter 1. There was a little boy whose name was Tim. He lived in a small barn with his grandfather, an ex-pilot. His father and mother broke up 3 years ago and left him alone with his grandfather. His grandfather was the only one he had, and he loved his grandfather so much. In fact, his grandfather was his role model. Every night in the moonlight, his grandfather would tell him stories of his missions outside the country, and Tim would close his eyes and imagine himself in the place of his granddad. His grandfather had a close friend called Elliot, who had a granddaughter named Blondie. She was a beautiful girl with golden hair and beautiful green eyes. She was Tim's best friend, and she did not spend much time with them. Her story was just like Tim's and even more sorrowful. Her mother and father was killed in a bomb blast, and she was left all alone until her grandfather found her. Blondie and Tim always played pretend games whenever their grandfather told them stories, and they were so alike. But her grandfather always sent her to sell belts, and she would stay until Friday night, so Tim only got to meet her on weekends. Okay, that's already all over the place. That's the second paragraph. One day Blondie came home to meet bad news. She saw the body of her grandfather lying breathless on the floor. He had been killed by a gunshot. But by whom? Who shot the gun? That the gunshot that killed her. Anyway, I'm goofing around. Let's go back to the story. And all his money had been taken. Why me? Why does it always have to be me? I have lost all I have. What will I do now? Suddenly she heard a voice from behind. It was the voice of her grandfather. He had not been completely killed. Go, my daughter, go behind the house. You will find a box. In the box, there is a necklace, a passport of your mother and father, and a diary. The necklace will make you remember me and record everything that happens in the diary. You are not alone. You can go to Tim. He is your friend. His grandfather is my best friend. He will never let me down. And remember, I, I, love you. And he died. Immediately, Blondie bursted into tears. She took her things, took her bag, and took the box and headed down to Tim's house. Tim, Uncle Francis, come, there is bad news, she screamed. My grandfather is dead, and he said I should come to you. I don't know what I will do. Please help me. Elliot! Screamed Francis. How come? What happened? Tell me, tell me. I just came home when I saw him dead by gunshot. And he was all I had, said Blondie. Don't worry, we'll take care of you. We are your family, said Francis. Tim confronted her and told her to stop crying, that everything would be all right. So I have a picture here which I illustrated. The proportions are a little bit off, but you can see Blondie begging and crying. You can see Uncle, Tim's grandfather, I didn't give him a name. And then you can see Tim there with his cap facing backwards. Very beautiful. So let's go to chapter 2 now. For a while, things got better. Tim and Blondie became like brothers and sisters, and Francis more like their father. Blondie had a dream. She always wanted to be a pilot, but others thought she was not capable enough. Who are the others, though? The only one who put her hopes up was her grandfather Elliot, and now he was gone. She was lost for sure, but she could not give up. Francis tried his best to make Blondie feel better, but the more he tried, the more she felt sad. One morning, Grandpa Francis prepared a meal of baked beans and bread for the kids to eat. The two children were on the roof looking at the early morning star when they heard a crash. "Grandpa!" screamed Tim. "Are you all right?" "Yes, my boy," answered Francis. "Just a little fall, that's all, nothing more." They waited and waited for their grandpa to call them in for breakfast. "Something is strange. Something is wrong," said Tim. "Let's go check on him." The two children rushed down to check on Francis. Francis was lying on the floor, helpless. A knife had been pierced to his leg, pinning him down from making baked beans and bread. My child logic, I don't understand. Anyway, this happened at the process of the fall. Blondie removed the knife. She tore a piece of cloth and tied it to his leg. Tim was so angry. That's what I wrote. But I'm sure I meant angry. "You could have bleeded to death and we would have been left with no one." That is Tim scolding the grandfather. When the leg was healed, Grandpa Francis took the children for a flight in an old airport nearby, but no airplane was functionable, so he decided to take them for a horse ride in the park just to make them feel comfortable. He balked. He balked a horse. Is that? He balked a horse. He buckled the horse, jumped on it, and started riding. The two children looked in amazement how such an old man could still ride that well. But something was wrong. The horse was in a bad mood and it was galloping all around the place. In the next second, laughter turned to tears when the horse threw Francis and he landed on his wounded leg. The fall put him in shock and he became petrified. "Grandpa, Grandpa, oh no," he called for help here and there, but only an old lady answered. She put him in a car and drove him to the hospital. On the way there, Blondie told the old lady the story, and tears ran down her eyes. At last, they ended up at the hospital. They rushed him to the sick bed. The doctor came out disappointed. He shook. Oh, it's not shook. He shaked his head. Old men like him should not do rough spots like that. "I'm so sorry, but he is unconscious." The doctor, we rushed into the hospital because he was petrified. Like you take a child. I said I'm not going to talk. Let's read through it. It's almost true. "I'm sorry, but he is unconscious and he's going to be like that for a long time. But you have one option. You will have to pull the plug. That's the only way to stop him." "Stop him for what?" "No, I don't want him to die. Is there anything I can do?" said Tim. "You just have to learn how to take care of yourself. Just go home. A miracle can happen." Tim and Blondie walked back home, thinking of how this life would be without his grandpa. Blondie had already given up hope and was already thinking of how she was going to kill herself. Okay, this became For the next few days, Tim was miserable and stopped Blondie from several accounts of suicide. Blondie was never happy she had given up. And then I drew another illustration. I hope you can see it. This is Blondie holding a bottle and Tim running from behind. That went dark fast. One day, there was an unexpected visitor at their home. They stepped into the home and saw a disaster. Another disaster. "Who is here?" he asked, but there was only a moan. He followed the man to the door and saw He followed the moan to the door and saw Blondie. Okay, so that's where the story ended. I didn't continue. I never continued writing it. And that's where I ended it today. And in few thoughts, it's horrible, very horrible. First of all, I don't understand. The story is devoid of logic. There is no logic inside. The parents broke up. So what? Why did they break up? I refuse to say it. Why is every single character in the story either a sweet old man or children? And it was horrible. It was horrible. But it's a good thing that it was horrible because practice makes perfect. I know I'm not the best writer now, and like every other writer, we have our cases of imposter syndrome when you feel as if you are not good enough, feel as if in your writing you should have achieved more, no one reads your book and the rest. But it's essential to look back at the past and see your past prowess and compare it to your future to show that yes, practice makes perfect. I know I will not be writing stories like that anymore. Right now my stories are better. You can check them out and give your verdict for yourself by checking out my blog below. Thank you for enduring this horrible experience with my story. That's all for today. Goodbye.